it's not just about money, and if you do make it just about money, then it's probably not going to work for a lot of people.
Two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders podcast.
In part 2, you will learn how our goals determine our outcomes when it comes to trading. You'll also see how your trading fits into your life and how you can make that fit in more comfortably. And Darren gets into this idea of the questions you are asking and how this really determines whether or not you've explored what trading really means to you and what you're going to get out of your trading. It's a fascinating discussion. We also talk about the no-loss trading system, so this is something you should definitely pay attention to, and what you must be comfortable with to succeed at trading over the long haul. And finally, we also look at ice cream businesses and Forex trading, their differences and similarities. Okay, if you haven't listened to part 1 of this discussion, I would definitely suggest that you go back to episode 49 and listen to part 1. But if you have, then you're probably raring to go and you're ready to listen to part 2. So here we go. This is part 2 of the discussion about trading success.
You know, these are things that people forget about. So why aren't you flying around in private jets and driving Ferraris to the grocery store? One reason could be because that's not your goal. That's not what you want. Another reason could be is because you're not the kind of person that just compounds accounts. You like to take a salary, so to speak, from your trading. Maybe you're a little bit risk averse like I am, because I've known too many people who've lost their accounts or lost a large chunk of their accounts from brokers that have gone bust. People may not remember the brokers that once existed, but many of them have totally just evaporated. And so those people who are listening to this are kind of new to Forex and hadn't considered this. This is something to really keep in mind, that your money is not really yours. What happens is in most cases, your broker will put your money in a big pool with everyone else's money. So all the other traders all the traders that have live accounts, all the money basically goes into one account. And so if something happens to that company, then that money may be spent elsewhere and may not be available to you. So it's something to keep in mind for sure. So I suppose one of the things that we are basically trying to highlight in this episode is that, one, your trading is going to really fit into how you see your trading life. So if that means that you're going to be traveling around the world and taking trades here and there as you can to sort of fund that travel, then that's the kind of trader you're going to be. If your trading is set up because you want to build up an account size to a certain amount so you can put your kids through college or private high school or whatever it is, then that's going to be what you're going to do. If it's just a salary, if you're taking your trading, so you're moving away from your job where, let's say, you're pulling in a salary to a trading lifestyle where you're still pulling in that salary, you're going to be pulling money out. And it's not going to be growing as fast because you're using your trading capital to basically fund your life. So these are the sorts of things, and a lot of people aren't comfortable trading huge amounts of money. One of the stories that I like to tell is the one about our friend Colin was an interesting trader. He actually, when he got his first job at a hedge fund, they didn't tell him how much he was trading. And when he found out how much he was trading, it changed everything for him, because literally every pip, every time the market went up or down against him or for him with his trades, it was like the price of a Ferrari. And so they didn't tell him that he was trading the economy of a small Eastern European country. These things didn't make it to him. So these are the sorts of things that happen, right? You're not aware of all of these factors that go into how quickly are you going to build your account. And so certainly it's one of these things that you should think about. The idea about trading and what people think about trading versus what it really is, I think there's a disconnect there. People think that you've got butlers and drivers and private jets and all these things because you're a trader, but the reality is last night I didn't get any sleep because I took my little kid to the hospital, right? You know what I mean? Like my butler didn't take my kid to the hospital, right? I'm a trader, and I didn't have a private nurse taking care of my little girl. We had, we were in a foreign country and she's really sick. So last night we were at the hospital for, until 3 a.m. or whatever. These are the sorts of things. So it's really just like any other life. So unless you're in that sort of little tiny bubble of being the owner of a hedge fund where you've got a lot of deposits and, that sort of thing, and you live in Singapore and you've got all that going on. That's, I think a lot of people assume that because you're a trader, and most of the traders I know, they're just normal people. They ride the bus, they go to the gym, they go on holidays, they go to the pub, they go and eat fast food. They're not always eating 5-star restaurants and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's interesting that you bring this up, Darren, because I think it's a really important topic, because people forget that just because you're a trader doesn't mean it changes who you are and exactly sort of your trajectory. I think it just gives you a little bit more freedom, really.
Yeah, and I think if the questions that pop into your head that you want to ask are very sort of one-dimensional and think in that very, sort of one-dimensional view of what trading is, then you probably haven't kind of explored your relationship as a trader with trading fully yet. And I think when you do, then the sort of those sort of questions don't jump into your head so often. So what I mean by that is just don't accept what your sort of first gut reaction is about how you should trade and what you should be trying to achieve, because if you can really find where you fit into the whole trading thing and where you can find a place to make it work for you, you're only going to find that by really doing some sort of self-examination and looking at yourself, what you really want to achieve. For instance, if you're working a full-time job and you're trying to trade a 60-minute chart Monday to Friday while you're in the office and you want to be a millionaire, then you've got to ask yourself, am I trying to achieve something that's actually achievable here? And, I think it's, you just have to be open-minded and be realistic in your expectations.
Yeah, and this is why I think this era in the retail Forex world is sort of, it has passed us by and it's in our rearview mirror. But this is why you, historically, in the 90s, or sorry, not in the 90s, but in the early 2000s, there was a bunch of basically BS about these trading robots, right? And the trading robots were sold, and they were basically selling this idea that you could buy this black box, download it on your computer, click the green button, and then just kind of walk away and come back, and in 45 days your account's grown up. You're over at 1.3 million now, and these sorts of things. And so that sort of thing, that heyday, I think, has kind of left us. And I think most traders now in Forex are savvy enough to know that those things typically don't work. If they do work, they can work for some time, but they can also completely milk your account. So they're the kind of thing where it's like, especially like the no loss system. This is a no loss trading system, So yeah, but the trading system completely blew up your account, and you have no more money because you had a margin call. But there was no loss. It didn't take a losing trade. You just got margin called, right? So these sorts of things I think are over with. But that's why they appealed to so many people, because people didn't really want to play the game. And the game is as you've identified, is you really have to sit down and think, okay, now how am I going to do this? What's going to make sense to me? Does it mean I'm going to sit down and trade the 4-hour charts, the daily charts, the 1-hour charts, the 5-minute charts? How much time am I going to focus on this? This is my job, right? You have to approach it as a job. And so it's not really about the system. This is one of those things that people think. They think they can find the $1 million system and just kind of plug into that, do what so-and-so is doing because he's got the $1 million system, and you're on your way. It's not really that simple, because you're the one that's pushing the buttons. And so you are the one that's really going to determine the outcome of your trading. And so it's one of those things that I think that it's good that it's come up this session, because it's something that people don't think about a lot. And it's also the reason why some traders are trading really large accounts. Other traders are trying to compound a small account, and still other traders are just pulling money out every week. So these are the sorts of things you have to keep in mind when you look at this. It's not, there isn't one path fits all. It's really kind of a individual thing, and that's kind of in a way what's so nice about trading. And most of the traders I know are pretty unique people. They're not the sort of person that says, well, I'm going to go to Oxford and then I'm going to get a job over here and I'm going to make a bunch of money and then I'm going to retire. And, these people actually have a little bit more creativity in their approach to life. Not always, but many traders who want to be self-employed traders, this is their approach. This is their path because they want that freedom. So yeah, it's a great question. Why aren't all traders flying around in private jets? Well, really, it comes down to the trader, doesn't it, Darren? It's really about the trader and what his or her goals are and how he's going to approach this. That kind of determines where you're going to be.
Yeah, definitely. It's about knowing yourself, understanding what you want to do, what you're capable of, and then using your abilities to find your way to be consistent and successful in your own right.
So let me just ask you something, because this is something that I think a lot of people, if you're new to trading, this is something that you might be thinking about. So if someone were to come to you, Darren, and they say, hey, Darren, I really like the way you trade system XYZ. I'd like for you to show me that system, and I'm just going to do exactly what you do. So what do you say?
Well, I can show them the system for sure, but there's lots of ifs and buts in there, and not going to be black and white, and you can't really write down. It's why I kind of really, whereas before I used to write system rules down, I don't really write system rules down anymore. I kind of write guidelines for what my approach is going to be, and what's the difference in that. Let's say, for instance, my rule is to take every valid entry. Sometimes I'll miss one. Sometimes I'll decide I don't want to trade one. And, well, how can the system work? How can I believe the system work if there's rules, but I break them sometimes and I don't other times? It's because I believe that has as much possibility as being successful as a system that's rigid, in black and white, with very strict rules that you follow all of the time. There's no simple or one answer to the question. It's questions like, if someone asks you, what was your worst month, or what was your worst drawdown trading this system, I don't like to answer that question because it's completely irrelevant. Because my worst drawdown might be 1%, but that doesn't mean that next month I couldn't wipe out my whole account with any system. No system or strategy is going to protect you from that. And the sooner you appreciate that, or, you're quite welcome to disagree with it completely. But for me, once you've completely accepted that uncertainty and that risk, then you can become, comfortable with trading, and you can make, I think, better risk decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You might. How do you feel about that? That's just how I see it. You can have the best system in the world that's got the most amazing track record, but there could be, but at the same time, it could just go through a really bad run where the market conditions just like as bad as it could possibly be for that particular system, and a little bit of luck run against you as well, and you could lose everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the larger, that to me is a risk management issue. I think the larger issue, or the more likely issue, I should say, is that when that happens, the trader loses confidence and kind of throws up, it gives up. That's, to me, the big problem with the drawdown, or as you say, let's say that we agree the market's changed. So the market's changed from June to August. It was weird, and we lost all this money. We had this massive drawdown from June to August, and so what are we going to do here? And so what will sometimes happen, like in a normal business, you say, I've got this ice cream business, right? And I've got this competitor who's come in. So I've got this ice cream business, right? And I've got this competitor who's moved in, and he's selling these ice creams that everybody loves. Totally different flavors to mine. They're a little bit cheaper than mine, and my business is going down the tube. So what do? I'm going to change my business. I'm going to change my menu, or, put a clown out front so people kind of look and say, what's in there? Or, I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I can recover, because this competitor's come in and he's really handing it to me. Well, in trading, I don't necessarily think that normal sort of business thinking fits. I don't think that's the right way to go. A lot of times what will happen is people will go in these drawdowns and they'll really get beat up. And then what happens is they give up. And they say, well, the system doesn't work anymore. The market's changed. What they don't know is that they might be at that almost the perfect place when they throw their hands up and say, that's it, I'm done. This isn't working anymore, and I've got to move on to something else. That could be the one spot where the market completely changes and goes back into phase with that trading system, and now they're making money again. So to me, that's the, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the real worry is that
definitely, yeah. It's not having those realistic expectations. People do that back testing and they see, oh, bloody hell, March in 2011 was terrible. But then when it's happening right in the moment, they seem to think that it's some sort of unique occurrence, and it's, even though they've back tested and seen that it happened from time to time, it happens, you have bad periods, and the thing to do is just kind of stick to your guns. When you're actually in the moment, the pain is too much, and it throws them off course. And it's amazing how quick that happens. It can be literally, Monday afternoon at the start of the week, and it's gone really badly, and people are absolutely crushed by it. Whereas, when they did their testing to see how the system performs over different market conditions, it was completely, it's completely in line with what they should expect from the strategy. And we have too higher expectations of how our strategies are going to perform, and we do a lot. We spend a lot of time getting these figures and going really deeply into them to see what the performance is like. But when the system's actually performing in that manner, the bad elements of it people can't live with.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. And a lot of traders, I believe, are looking toward the reward and they forget about the risk. So the reason why they get into trading is because they want the private jets and they want the butler and all that and the big house and everything, and they forget about the risk. And the risk is something that's really where you're gonna, like, that to me is really where you're going to make your career. If you can get that piece down, if you can understand that, okay, based on taking this risk with this system, I expect to see this happen. Now, it's always going to be different in real time when it happens in the future, right? It's always going to be, most likely it's going to be worse than you thought it was going to be. But these are the sorts of things that people don't really, they're looking for the reward. They're looking for the way out of their job. They're looking for the big pile of money and the big house, and they forget that the risk is the reason why you get paid that. And so you've got to understand that risk. You've got to get a handle on, okay, if I lose 30% of my account, so if I've got a 200,000 euro account and I lose 60,000 euros, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. So am I going to quit if I lose 60,000 euros? Is that something that's going to send me to thinking, well, maybe this trading thing isn't going to work? So these are the sorts of things that people have to consider, because if you can't handle the risk, you just, there's no way that you can play the long game. You're not gonna survive. You're gonna be one of the statistics. And really, that if you ask any old trader, ask a really old trader. This is a really good thing to do, actually. If you can seek out an old trader, so somebody who's got who's got the weathered face and the big long resume, ask them. Just say this. Say, okay, all right, I want to get into trading. What's the one thing that you think I really need to understand in order to make this a career? And see what the old trader tells you. Because I don't see really any honest answer other than something along the lines of understanding risk, because that's really what it comes down to. And it's why most people don't do this, because they don't want to take the risk. but sometimes we're focused on the reward. So yeah, like we're focused on the reward when we say to the trader, hey, how come you don't have a $150 million trading account and you're not mincing with models and riding private jets and driving Ferraris, right? I mean, that's the thing. We're focused on that reward. Again, it's the reason why we get into this for a lot of people in the beginning anyway. So yeah. So all right, Darren. So I guess in summary, I think you bring up a great question. I think this is a great topic to cover. And for me, the reason why a lot of traders aren't at that level is because, one, that's not their goal. That's not what they want. Two, it's because they're using trading as an income, right? So they're not compounding their account necessarily. Three, it could be also because they're a little bit risk averse. They understand that there are risks in Forex, and you have to be careful, where you place your money, because, even if you move from retail Forex and you go and open up an account somewhere else that's outside of retail Forex, you're actually accessing the real interbank trading market. You still have to choose your broker, carefully, because as we've seen through the GFC, some of these brokers go belly up too. So it's, the risk might change slightly, but it's still involved in this process. It doesn't matter where you are. So to me, I think it's important for people to understand that you're really what you're looking for and how you're looking at the risk of this. That's going to determine sort of what your trajectory is like as a trader. So those are my thoughts on this. So Darren, what are your thoughts, sort of in sum, what are your thoughts in terms of this idea of, why isn't every trader a $1 million trader? What are your basic thoughts on this, to sum it up?
Yeah. To sum it up, I think it's not just about money, and if you do make it just about money, then it's it's probably not going to work for a lot of people, and you need to find that where you're comfortable and how you can make trading fit into your life, and how you can find that place where you can be consistent. And you might touch close to it a few times and then falter, and the point is it's not always going to be your strategy that is messing you up. It might be your relationship with the money that is affecting how you trade.
Yep, and that's a really, really good tip. So thanks for your time, Darren. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take the time to rate us on iTunes. That would be awesome. That helps us out quite a bit. So we'll see you in the next episode, Darren.
Cheers, Walter. Bye-bye.